Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Betrayed. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. A cheating wife who left me during my time in the hospital now seeks forgiveness after 12 long years. Hi, I'm Jason, a 47-year-old man, and I want to share a life-changing experience to seek some advice. This happened 12 years ago when I was married to Susan, my first wife. We had been married for 7 years and had 2 children, Laura and Lucas, who were 5 and 3 at the time. Our life was fairly normal until one tragic day. One morning, while I was driving to work, a speeding car coming from the opposite direction crashed into mine. The next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital bed, covered in bandages and casts. A nurse informed me that I had just come out of a coma after 2 days. I held my doctor's hand and thanked him for saving my life. I was grateful for a second chance, but I had no idea that a storm was coming. A week later, my doctor gave me heartbreaking news. My lower body was paralyzed, and I might never walk again. I was devastated. Susan broke down in tears when she heard it. I knew it was going to be hard for her, managing the house and raising 2 young children alone. I slipped into depression. I couldn't imagine spending my life in a wheelchair. I spent hours staring at the empty hospital walls, blaming my fate. I felt crushed thinking that I would never again play soccer with my kids, dance with my wife, or enjoy the freedom I once had. To make things worse, Susan slowly stopped visiting me. In the beginning, she would bring the kids to the hospital 3 times a week. Those were the only moments I truly lived for. But over time, her visits became fewer and fewer. I begged her to bring the children more often, but she said they didn't want to come that much. I felt helpless and broken. One day, she came to the hospital with divorce papers. She said, "I can't spend my life with a disabled man. I'm still young and attractive. I deserve a normal husband." I won't lie, I had a feeling this might happen. I noticed her becoming distant. But I didn't think she would give up on me so quickly. Only a month had passed since the accident when some of my friends told me they had seen Susan walking hand in hand with a middle-aged man, probably in his 50s, in cafes and shopping malls during weekends. Some said she had been having an affair even before my accident. Others believed she got involved with a wealthy, older man after I became disabled. Less than 2 months after the accident, before I was even discharged, she handed me the divorce papers. I might sound calm writing this now, but back then, I was devastated. I was heartbroken, stuck in a wheelchair, divorced, and had no income or savings. Most of my money had gone toward household bills and our children's education, so saving wasn't an option. Thankfully, insurance covered most of my medical bills, but I had to use whatever little I had for the rest. In the end, I was left with nothing. I wanted to scream, cry, and curse my fate. I don't know how I kept myself together. Maybe it was the fire of revenge that helped me survive. After I was discharged, I moved into my parents' home. I was 35 years old, divorced, broke, and completely dependent on my elderly mother, both physically and financially. My mother, a 62-year-old florist, ran a small shop in the suburbs. Her modest income, along with her pension, was enough for her. Yet, she still offered to support me. It was heartbreaking for me to rely on her at this stage in my life. Soon after, I tried to visit my children. When I reached our old home, it was locked. Neighbors told me that Susan had moved in with her boyfriend, taking the children with her. According to them, the man was an older, wealthy man, divorced 3 times, with no kids of his own. Many of them called Susan a gold digger, saying she had only gotten involved with him for his money. I managed to get his address and went to see them. When I arrived, Susan refused to let me see my children. She said they had already adjusted to her boyfriend and even called him Daddy. She claimed that my sudden visit would confuse them. When I insisted, she threatened me with a restraining order. I didn't have a single penny to hire a lawyer. I was surviving on my mother's small income. So I stepped back. It had been less than 6 months since my accident, and only a few months after the divorce, and she was already living with another man. I felt disgusted. I asked her how she could abandon me and move on so fast. I know I sounded immature at the time, but I was a helpless father in a wheelchair. What else could I do? I begged Susan for just one chance to prove my worth. But instead of understanding, she insulted me, calling me a burden in her life. I asked her if she had been unfaithful to me before the divorce. After all, it had only been a month since our separation was finalized, and she was already living with another man. She coldly dismissed me, saying it was none of my business and told me never to show my ugly face again. I stood there silently, staring at her, thinking about our 7 years of marriage, wondering how she replaced me with someone else so quickly. With tears in my eyes, I left the place feeling completely defeated. I returned home and broke down crying in front of my mother, like a child. She comforted me and gave me the strength to take charge of my life again. At that time, I had no direction and no idea what to do next. To get started, I joined my mother at her flower shop. I helped her make bouquets, serve customers, and keep the shop clean. Soon, I realized the business had great potential, but my mother was too weak to expand it on her own. I reached out to my old contacts and secured deals with event companies to supply flowers for weddings and other occasions. Step by step, I built a small team and started handling venue decorations. Eventually, I launched my own event management company. It took me 12 long years to rebuild my life. Through all of it, my mother stood by my side, supporting and encouraging me every step of the way. About a year after my accident, I found out that Susan was planning to leave the city with our children and her boyfriend. I rushed to their house to see my kids one last time, but they had already left before I arrived. Before that, I had tried several times to see my children, but each time Susan insulted me and forced me to leave. She had full custody of the children and the legal power to make decisions for them. Since I was financially unstable and physically dependent at the time, I couldn't even fight for joint custody. I couldn't challenge the restraining order either because I didn't have the money to hire a lawyer. Meanwhile, Susan had her wealthy boyfriend, Evan. I still don't know whether he was with her before my accident or if he appeared afterward. All I knew was that he was rich and had inherited a lot of property. For the past 12 years, I followed every lead I received about my children's whereabouts, but every time I tried to meet them, I failed. Susan threatened to have me arrested, and her boyfriend had enough money and influence to make that happen. Ironically, even after all these years, that man never married Susan, even though they lived together the whole time. A year ago, I finally filed for joint custody of my children. I had been waiting until my event business became stable enough to support the case. At last, I succeeded. I was granted 15 days to spend with my children. They are flying in next week to stay with me. Although Susan strongly opposed my request, I had a skilled lawyer who presented my case well. The judge also asked the children if they wanted to meet me, and thankfully, they said yes. I know I can never make up for the 12 years we lost, but I truly want to spend meaningful time with them now. As the day gets closer, I feel both excited and extremely nervous. They're teenagers now, 17 and 15, and I understand that teens can be emotional and sometimes unpredictable. I just hope they aren't rude or harsh toward me. I don't know what stories Susan has told them over the years, and I'm unsure if I should tell them the truth about their mother. Do you have any suggestions? How should I approach them? I'm full of emotions, nervous and happy at the same time. Update 1. Hello again. I realized I missed 2 important pieces of information in my earlier post. First, about my current wife, Amy. Yes, I got married again to a wonderful woman 5 years ago. Amy is an interior designer. I met her at an event where she was decorating the wedding venue, and my team was handling the flowers. At that time, I hadn't launched my own company yet. It wasn't love at first sight, but we had a great connection and kept seeing each other at similar events. Eventually, we became close friends. Amy was a single mother to a lovely 3-year-old daughter. She was the one who came up with the idea to start an event management business. She had worked in that industry for years and had valuable contacts and experience. We became business partners and dated for a year before getting married. Now, we live happily as a family of 4, Amy, her daughter Mia, my mother, and me. Mia was thrilled to have a grandmother, and my mother was equally delighted to have a granddaughter. Second, about compensation for the accident. I was hit by a speeding truck, so legally, I should have received compensation from the logistics company. But at the time, they twisted the facts, blamed me for the accident, and walked away without paying a cent. I couldn't afford a good lawyer back then, so I didn't receive any compensation. You know how big companies work. They hire expensive attorneys to protect themselves. After I married Amy, she gave me a new perspective and I refiled the case against the logistics company, as we could now afford a good lawyer. The case is still ongoing, but our lawyer has given us a positive indication that the judgment might come in our favor. Coming back to my story, as I mentioned earlier, 3 months ago, my children were finally supposed to visit me after 12 long years of separation. I was both nervous and excited, but Amy kept me calm and supported me through it all. I went to pick them up at the airport. My elder daughter, Laura, is now 15, and my younger son, Lucas, is 13. They've grown up to be a lovely young lady and a handsome young man. After the initial greetings, we quickly ran out of things to say. The conversation became awkward. During the drive home, I tried to break the ice by asking them about school and their city. I purposely avoided talking about their mother, and they didn't mention her either. They were unusually quiet, or maybe they were just looking for a chance to plug in their earphones like most teens do these days. When we reached home, Amy welcomed us warmly. To my surprise, the kids looked shocked, as if they hadn't expected to meet Amy. I didn't understand their reaction. If their mother could move in with another man just months after our divorce, why couldn't I remarry? Amy had prepared a cozy guest room for them, and we all had lunch together. She also shared the fun vacation plans we had arranged as a family. The kids gave us a neutral response. They neither seemed excited nor rejected the idea. Amy and I were confused by their mixed reactions. Soon after, the kids locked themselves in their room. Not long after that, I received a call from Susan, furious. She accused me of tricking the children and said I brought them here just so Amy and I could manipulate them. She claimed I had hidden the truth about my marriage. Her accusations left me disoriented. I ended the call, but she kept calling persistently. I decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. I called Laura and Lucas into the living room and gently asked them what was bothering them. After a bit of hesitation, they finally spoke. They were angry at me because, according to Susan, I had abandoned them. It broke my heart. Susan had brainwashed them with lies and manipulated them for years. I told them the full truth, how their mother left me for another man the moment she got the chance. They were little then, but they still remembered some things from that time. I explained how Susan disappeared with them, how I was chased away whenever I tried to see them, and how I was even blocked from contacting them legally. I showed them the restraining letter and all my rejected requests to meet them. They cried. They were overwhelmed and regretful for believing their mother's lies all these years. Lucas, my son, admitted he had once tried to reach out to me on social media, but Susan caught him. She emotionally blackmailed him and made him promise never to contact me again. They also shared that Susan's partner was never a real father figure to them. In fact, he and his family often rebuked and mistreated them, especially during family gatherings, because Susan was living there without being married. Though he paid for their education, he never treated them like his own children. My heart ached hearing all of this. We hugged each other tightly and cried together, letting out years of pain. We then went on a week-long family vacation to Florida, and it was wonderful. Laura and Lucas bonded beautifully with Amy and Mia, who is turning 8 this year. Seeing them all together as one happy family filled my heart with joy. The children even posted group photos on social media with the caption, "Happy Family." Of course, Susan saw the pictures and called them furious. She scolded them for betraying her and blamed me for turning them against her. She even sent me messages threatening to cut off my contact with them permanently. I just laughed at her empty threats and continued enjoying our vacation. After we returned, the children met some of my relatives. My family welcomed them with open arms, and old bonds were renewed. Before leaving, they promised to stay in touch despite Susan's threats. They said they felt suffocated in that house and would move in with me after finishing high school. We hugged and said our goodbyes. When they returned to Susan, They confronted her about everything, but she twisted the story again and accused me of manipulating them. It's been a few months since then, but we talk regularly now. I truly hope one day they'll be back with me for good. I'll update you if anything new happens. Update 2. Hey, everyone. I know it's been a while since I last shared an update, but a lot has happened in the last 6 months. First, regarding the court case with the logistics company, it has finally been settled. And the good news? I received a hefty compensation, not just for the accident, but also for the injustice done during the first trial. I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but during the initial trial, the logistics company whose truck hit my car manipulated the case and managed to put the blame on me for the accident. Because of that, I received no compensation at all. It was Amy who encouraged me to appeal the verdict again, and this time we won. I shared the good news with my children, and they were just as excited as I was. They said they wanted to come live with me permanently, and I promised them that I'd make that happen. About a month later, something completely unexpected happened. Susan showed up at my office. She held my hand and asked me to forgive her. I was completely taken aback. Seeing her after all these years, and especially under such circumstances, was surreal. She confessed that after my accident, she had become desperate. That's when she met an older man who was looking for a sugar baby. I honestly had no idea what that term meant until I Googled it that very day. Susan explained that this man had some bad experiences with younger women who had tricked him and run off with his money. So he decided to settle for someone more mature, Susan, who was 32 at the time. He agreed to take care of her and the children, but on one condition. He would never marry her because he didn't want to share his wealth with her or my children. Susan accepted the deal because he promised to take care of their needs and fund the children's education. I asked her why she didn't get a job instead. She said she had never worked a day in her life and didn't believe she could earn the same lifestyle that her lover provided, and that too, for free. She kept insisting that she had done all of it to secure the children's future, claiming that if she hadn't, they would have grown up in poverty. I had had enough. I was so annoyed by her constant justifications that I finally yelled, "If you truly cared about our kids' future, you could have at least given me a chance to bounce back. You should have talked to me instead of abandoning me and disappearing without warning." I told her clearly that I had moved on, and her pleas didn't matter anymore. She tried to bring back memories, our wedding day, the birth of our children, but I told her plainly, "I'm not that person anymore. Those memories don't mean anything to me now." Then she crossed a line. She said she and my children were my real family, not Amy and Mia. She even said Mia wasn't my daughter and that I could never have a proper family with them. I was disgusted by her cruel words. I told her firmly that Amy and Mia are my real family now, and she had no place in our lives. But she still refused to leave my office until I finally threatened to call the police. Later that evening, I told my mother and Amy about what had happened. Naturally, Amy was shaken, but being the mature and understanding woman she is, she didn't let it affect her deeply. My mother, on the other hand, was furious. She admitted she never liked Susan because of her selfish nature. She even said Susan only came back because she found out I had received a large settlement, calling her what she truly is, a gold digger. When my children heard about their mother's behavior, they were furious. They confronted her and told her to stay in her lane. Somehow, Susan's partner, her so-called sugar daddy, found out about the drama. He warned her that if she ever tried to contact me again, he'd kick her out. Honestly, I couldn't be more thankful to that man. And now for the best update of all. My children are moving in with me this month. They'll stay with us for a while before they start college nearby. They've chosen to live in a hostel to experience college life independently, and I respect that. I believe that while staying connected is important, giving each other space is equally necessary, especially after everything we've been through. As for Susan, the kids have completely cut ties with her. In the end, she's left with nothing but her sugar daddy. Let's hope she enjoys the sugar, until it eventually turns sour.
Haha.